A lot of people have the idea of how Assassin's Creed utilizes history very, very wrong. Some people lean into more of the why doesn't this follow history beat for beat vibe, while others kind of stray into the more why isn't this more like The Witcher 3? And here today I want to tell you as to why it is both of those things, and it is also neither of those things. Well, it's especially not one of those things, but we'll go over that today. So without further ado, remember, if you do enjoy today's video, don't forget to leave it a big old like. If you enjoy content like this, you want more like it, be sure to check out that button underneath the video. It used to be red, it still says subscribe. Last but not least, I gotta thank my channel members. And last but not least, I wanna talk about my Substack. If you wanna connect with me even more, I write a Substack article once a week where I talk about things that are related to gaming, related to YouTube, or even just things in my personal life. If you're interested in that and a more direct way to interact with me and maybe even get some more behind the scenes ideas of the things I enjoy and you might also enjoy, check out my Substack link down below. It is free to join Substack and it is free to subscribe and read all of my articles. You do not have to pay $1 if you don't want to. So anyway, let's jump right on into the video. Assassin's Creed balances history in an extremely unique way among pretty much any other IP I can think of out there across games, books, movies, shows. It's extremely unique in its own way because it sits in a very fine point between portraying history and portraying fiction. To give some examples, you can look at games like Red Dead Redemption 2 or Ghost of Tsushima. Both use realistically inspired places. In Red Dead, they use fictional names, but the places are designed to be something that feels extremely lived in and immersive. Mechanically, they try to really make it feel like you live in 1899, even though everything on the map is a fictionalized version of the Western United States. And a little bit of Southeast and a little bit of East Coast as well, and a teensy bit of the Pacific Northwest, just a teensy bit, but it is kind of mishmashed all together. And then on the other hand, you have Ghost of Tsushima. They use real place names. The island of Tsushima looks exactly like the real island, but the island itself and the biomes and the portrayals of the different places are heavily fictionalized. You don't have actual snowy mountains in the north and autumn plains in the south. That's just not what the real island of Tsushima looks like. You can look at vlogs people have posted, or you can just go on Google Maps and see for yourself. It doesn't look like that, but Komodo Beach, where the game starts, is a real place, and that's really where the Mongols showed up for their invasion. That said, both games heavily fictionalize large parts of their storylines. They fictionalize the people, the places, they fictionalize a lot of things, but they do really strive to make it feel like it is this almost blockbuster movie type of history vibe. And it's not all bad. A lot of it is well done. Ghost of Tsushima won awards from the island of Tsushima for how well they portrayed the culture of the island and the culture of Japan. Red Dead Redemption 2 has been praised for its incredible immersion that has people playing to this day. And then you have games like The Witcher 3, which, yes, the inspiration from medieval Poland is very clear. Novigrad's a beautiful city. You can just walk around it and feel like you're over in Central or Eastern Europe, however you want to describe Poland, but it has that really awesome immersive vibe. You can just kind of stroll around town, you can stroll around no man's land, you can stroll around anywhere on the map and have a good time and feel like you're living in the world of The Witcher with that heavy Polish medieval inspiration. That said, it also has monsters and dragons and werewolves and magic and stuff like that. So it's not It's historically inspired, but it's heavily fantasized. Assassin's Creed sits somewhere between all of these. In fact, one of these shouldn't even be on the same map as Assassin's Creed, but we'll talk about that in a minute. You see, Assassin's Creed has to lean into being historically authentic. The world needs to feel real. We're living through the memories of an ancestor. And so the memories have to portray the world that we know what it looks like and how it acted like in that time period we are trying to portray. This is the broad scope of history that Assassin's Creed can really nail, and 99% of the time it does a fantastic job of making you feel like you are truly in this ancient lost world from a time long gone. The best games truly make you feel like you are living in this era, having to survive in this time period that can sometimes be extremely brutal and unforgiving. But some people take that to be, this is just a history game. And that's just not what Assassin's Creed is. I've gotten comments that say things like, if it was trying to be more historically accurate, they wouldn't have done this. If it was, this is what should have happened because this is what happened in the textbook. And that's not really what Assassin's Creed is trying to do. Yes, historical events will happen in the background, but what Assassin's Creed is trying to do is the Animus shows you this new way of how the world was then. There are liberties that have to be taken, and the Animus is supposed to show you the truth. Let's not forget the assassins are the villains of history. Most of the protagonists we play as are the villains of history. The assassins themselves were, well, we know now they weren't actually doing hashish, but it was a pretty common rumor, and that's where the name came from, the real assassins, from smoking hashish and going on essentially suicide missions. We are playing history's villains. So the Animus is supposed to show us the truth that, okay, well, maybe there's a different perspective on how things are. Maybe the textbooks were not exactly right. And what the games do is they fill in the gaps of history. Anyone who truly loves history knows that there are gaps in the storyline. Not major gaps, like I said, we know a lot about the times and places of where we are going, but not every single thing is documented. That's impossible. Either someone didn't write it down, or what was written down was lost to history through fires, wars, just simply being thrown away, numerous things like that. There are tons of records that we cannot know and will never know about, and Assassin's Creed, through the Animus and being able to relive those memories, is trying to help us fill in a lot of those gaps. Don't forget the saying that the assassins work in the shadows. That doesn't just mean literally they work in the shadows to stab people. That means they also work in the shadows of history, the gray areas of history. Their war is not recorded. That's a very core tenet of this franchise. It is a war between the assassins and Templars that will not be written down in any history book. The only way to experience it is by either being a part of one of the orders or having an Animus to go and actually relive it. And that is one of the most unique and special things about this franchise that I love very much. Now, on the other side, there are the fantasy folks, and they have come along with games like Odyssey and Valhalla, and I don't have much to say other than this is a sci-fi series. There are sci-fi elements to these games that are sometimes some of the most mind-blowing parts of these games. They make for some of the best moments. The end of Assassin's Creed 2 is probably one of the most unique moments in the entire franchise, and one that has everybody absolutely hooked. And please, dear God, someone make the DLCs in the Ezio trilogy optional, because it destroys the pacing of Assassin's Creed 2 for anyone trying to experience it. Anyways, I digress. But the way that the sci-fi stuff is supposed to feel is cold. Just look at the architecture of any of the Isu chambers. It's supposed to be cold, unforgiving, kind of dark, apocalyptic feel. The Isu are not exactly good people, or whatever they are, since they're not technically people. But for the sake of just making sense, they're not great beings. They're not great deities. They're just not. And I know some things like the Cyclops and the Isu experiments that turned certain people into giant monsters, that stuff is just a bit too much of a stretch for me as far as how the Isu did things like that. That's too far. That's just an excuse to say, look, you can fight big monsters in Assassin's Creed. Huzzah. That's not how it should work. I would much rather stretch reality with something like the Animus focus that Basim has in Mirage. That feels more like something that I can suspend my disbelief for, more than, look, it's Medusa and a Minotaur and a Cyclops. That's not what I come here for. And I think that's where the sci-fi stuff, sometimes it's used with too much surface value. I hear a lot of people use the term, any kind of technology you don't understand can be considered magic. Yes, but sometimes you kind of break the theming of things, and sometimes you take things a little too much on the nose, and that's not as narratively interesting as something that has some layers to it. For example, Ezio talking through the Animus to Desmond because he's a messenger to Desmond who isn't there and who will only be able to experience this message through Ezio's memories later on in the future, because the Isu calculated that capability to happen at the end of Revelations. That is a fantastic way to have the ancestor interact with the modern day protagonist. Having Cassandra show up wearing a suit is just weird. That's just weird.
To be called the Eagle Bearer, but Icarus is long gone.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
So that's my 2 cents on that. Now, I know that somewhat went off topic there for a minute, but this is what really makes Assassin's Creed unique. It has to straddle this fine line of feeling historically authentic and real and like you're living in this time period, but you also have to balance it out with filling in these gray areas, changing some historical perspectives because you're able to experience the truth through the animus. Not everything is exactly how it's portrayed in the history books, and that's what I love about this series. It's not supposed to just be a history game. It's not just supposed to be this heavily fictionalized version of history. It's supposed to feel like the Dan Brown novels of games. You feel like, you know what, maybe this did really happen. I don't really know otherwise. Even though deep down we all know it's fiction, it's supposed to feel fun and adventurous like that. Like maybe we are really, maybe Patrice Désilets really knew something we didn't know about history. That is when Assassin's Creed has that type of magic to it that I think a lot of the OG fans and a lot of people that have picked up and started the franchise from the beginning felt with those games. And it did carry on for quite a while. I would say that feeling didn't really go away until much later in the franchise. I can't put an exact finger on when, but there's a lot of the best games in the franchise nail that feeling, and I would love to see that come back in games like Red or Hex as we go forward with this franchise. And I hope that if you are watching this video and you had one of these perspectives before, I hope I maybe shifted your perspective, or maybe you have an argument against my perspective. Either way, let me know down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. But before you go, I just want to say, are you ever on the go and you feel like you want to play your favorite games at any time? Do you have a PC that's maybe a little bit out of date? Well, that's okay. Boostroid Cloud Gaming is here to help you play all of your favorite games on high settings as long as you have access to a browser. Whether it's an old laptop, whether it's your phone, whether it's a tablet, whether it's just your computer that's a little bit behind the times. Boostroid Cloud Gaming for just a few bucks a month can hook you up with being able to stream all of your favorite games on several different launchers. All you gotta do is connect your accounts to Boostroid Cloud Gaming and you can access all the games that you already own and play them on the go, anywhere, at any time. I've been playing the crap out of Red Dead Redemption 2 while I've had access to Boostroid, and it's been extremely fun to be able to play it anywhere I am, all the time. There's a little bit of lag if you don't have extremely fast internet, so sometimes my school Wi-Fi is a little bit on delay, but overall I can't complain. It's been a really fun time to be able to enjoy it, and I highly recommend checking them out in the link down below. It'll greatly help support the channel. So anyway, Boostroid Cloud Gaming, check them out. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.